Members of the Hedda Gabler Company, this is your beginner's call. Part 1, beginners, thank you. Ms Blanchett, Ms Hamilton, Ms Byron and Mr Way, your beginner's call. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening's performance will commence in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we've got clearance, folks. Stand by the cast, thanks, George. Stand by, please. Electrics cues 1 through 3, follow-ons through 5. Stand by, Cate. Stand by, sound, cue 1. Thank you. House lights and electrics cue 1, go. Sound cue 1 and Cate, go.
Theatre is a complicit medium. The audience completes the circle, and it's a living, breathing, hopefully incredibly dangerous, often offensive and exhilarating, life-affirming place to spend one's time, both as an actor and as an audience member.
I didn't even see you come around. I'm sorry.
Don't whisper a word of this to anyone. Never. I thought I'd straighten yourself up. You should probably go.
Listen, come through. Should we to the right? Nothing's gone by.
This isn't going to be some turgid sitting room drama. This is it's a thriller. It's a romance, it's a comedy at times, it's a farce at times. It's all these things. It's a masterpiece.
So, married life is not for Hedda Gabler.
I didn't say that. It's a surprise, that's all. How total it is. I was done with dances and flirtations. My time had come.
It's a very famous play, and it carries... I know I've played Hedda Gabler, and I remember people always asking me, you know, if you look back at other productions and how do you feel about the history of all the great actresses that I've played it? And I just say, I don't want to even think about it. It's irrelevant. It's always irrelevant because you always start again, day one, in the rehearsal room, on the floor, with the people you're working with. That's the project you're doing. Everything else goes out the window.
Inevitably, Hedda came up, because I've been looking for ages to do a play at the Sydney Theatre Company, and Hedda always comes up when an actress of a certain age who's done a certain amount of things, I suppose, you know, one must play Hedda. And I'm quite perverse. I think I tend to run in the opposite direction when people make those suggestions. So I said no, and I'm not interested in a role that's like a star vehicle. It's not the type of performance I'm particularly interested in. And so Robin and I chatted, and eventually she suggested what if she directed it, and Andrew was to do the adaptation. And because Andrew and I work so well together, I was really comforted by that, and he is so great to have in the rehearsal room. So both the team of he and Robin was sort of irresistible. And then as the cast became, gathered together, it was just, it was one of those things you couldn't say no to.
The original production of Hedda Gabler in 2004 brought together a group of actors, not many of whom had worked with each other. And in those early days, there's a cautiousness to everything that we do. And it's my job as a director to facilitate, accommodate, give space to, and love the very individual approaches that the actors bring to those first delicate early days. People are, they're nervous, they're self-conscious, they're uncertain, they don't know what they're doing, they haven't made any decisions yet. We're just taking these little baby steps. And it was very tentative and very intense and very discursive and very adventurous.
Condolences on the passing of your aunt, Jürgen.
Yes, thank you. It's very sad.
But a release, perhaps?
Did you come all this way to speculate on Rena Tesman shuffling off?
No.
Well, you need to get to the bottom of this. Look, poor Tea's almost catatonic. What has Isla Local done?
He's been brought to hospital where he's dying.
Oh, no. Please.
Hospital.
Please,
Dying.
no. And there's been no reconciliation, Hedda. Jürgen, I must see him. I must see him alive.
Nobody
I
is
have
allowed.
to.
Well, Auntie said he wouldn't dare challenge me for the post anyway because of his past. She was adamant, but Hedda...
Unless, of course, you're hoping to have him to your little soiree.
You like the house at all?
No. Oh, it's fine, but no.
Coming into a room with the actors who'd performed this 18 months earlier, for the first few days, I would say it was quite artificial, because we weren't starting at the beginning. We were starting at the end. We were starting at an end point, which was the point at which they'd left it.
It's been a long time.
They would have in their memories, their muscle memory and their emotional memory, the level and pitch of that performance, but it would be empty because it wouldn't be filled with the experience of having done it, and it wouldn't be filled with an audience's response. So I knew it would be very difficult for them to come back into a room and start doing it again.
Somehow from memory, the whole thing with the cushion was completely incidental.
Well, the one thing, though, don't go getting into too much more debt.
So you really know from when you walk in that he's not going to get the job?
No, I think, no, I believe he is going to get the job. I'm just warning him that Islet will be standing for him.
Oh, these last 5 years have been torture. I have nothing in common, and he's 20 years older.
I sort of can't do that.
No, I know, yeah. It's so interesting, a play like Hedda Gabler, because in many ways she's a contemporary figure. That's why it's a classic, because they only survive if they remain relevant. That's a recognisable woman, a recognisable character.
I think a lot of people are terrified by Hedda because of, I suppose, she's a great destructive snowball, but she's also terrified of herself.
You'll have to go back. Imagine, how will you, where will you, how will you live?
Because we had the wonderful luxury in Australia of doing it was a really long run. It was like a 2.5-month run, which is long in Australia. It meant that the characters you can sort of sit inside your character and you really know who they are, you know how they move, you know how they would respond to any situation. So coming back and speaking the words again, it was like going, oh, I remember this person. I remember how they felt.
Sorry. It is perhaps normal for an expectant young wife to be so full of zeal, and in that way what you did. Perhaps it's normal.
You know, we'd known each other for quite some time, so it was a very comfortable space to work in. Yet at the same time, you had to make it a bit uncomfortable in order to find out, was that going to work or wasn't it going to work? And I was a bit cautious about that.
I could tell you anything, Hedda. My hopes, my fears, my fantasies, my demons. That thing inside me that raged and blazed with drink.
I felt like she was somebody else, and I was somebody new, and I wanted to find her again. You know, I wanted to re-find her.
I started work at the magistrates as a governess, but his first wife was so sickly, I ended up running the house.
Any group of people who work together over time will develop an ease. They'll develop a trust, they'll develop a shorthand, a language, a way of working that produces an outcome that is just magic to watch because they're just so damn good at it.
That's the great thing about, I suppose, ensemble playing and working with the same people again, is that you do get to go to a deeper layer.
one of the great joys about revisiting this play, coming back a year and a half later, working with exactly the same cast, because we have been able to find all sorts of things that we didn't even find the first time round with a 10-week run.
We caught wind of a soiree that sounded unmissable.
That's the bind with women, Tessman. If they're worth it, they cost it.
I'd seen a couple of productions of Hedda years ago, and I'd always say, "Oh, you've got to, it's a classic, it's one of the great classics of theatre, and go and see it." And both times I was really disappointed, and I thought, I don't know, why is that a classic? What is it about that play that still affects a contemporary audience? Because I didn't feel either of those productions affected me. And I read the adaptation. That was the final kind of clincher into saying, yes, I really wanted to do it, because his adaptation seemed to me to be, well, it was exciting because it seemed both contemporary and it seemed to draw out the essential elements of the original piece.
The emphasis in the original is she's petrified of scandal, which just doesn't hold that much water anymore. And you can set the play back in the time that it's set, as Robin did, but if the audience aren't aware of how dire her situation is, then it's just a woman playing games with other people. So I had to shift the weight from scandal, which I kept in there, but I also weighted the play to be much more about entrapment. So there's a line which I think is something like, "There's nothing more isolating than being trapped in someone else's life," which is in the second act. And now that's a line that I wrote, that is not in the Ibsen, and there's that's not even a sense of being there in the Ibsen. And that was when I really, because I write chronologically, so round about then I really started to think, oh yes, this is what Hedda Gabler's about. For us, for this production now.
What in God's name am I to do with myself then? There's nowhere more isolating than the middle of someone else's life.
He was able to say, well, this is what these people were saying to each other. Let's bring the language forward. Let's make it accessible, to people today, where the references are not outdated, and bring with it a great amount of luggage. And by stripping it back that way, you invite a new generation to be able to see themselves.
He's brought both women into this century so that women, when they see it, and men too, can relate to these characters now, even though, the themes of the play are still, steeped in the period. All the characters, I think, have modern dilemmas.
That, for me, is the great tension and great excitement of having a play that's set in a 19th century domestic environment or political climate, but you hear it through the prism of a contemporary voice. I think that's very exciting.
Oh, this is your way.
How about that then, Brack? That whole worry is over.
There's punch here for anyone who wants it.
He added, I suppose, a characteristic of Andrew's writing, which is simultaneous and overlapping dialogue, which is a distinct characteristic of Andrew's writing, and one that I respond to very strongly, because it's the way we all speak. We constantly speak over each other.
I'd liked
and manage to
overlaying
hear each other.
Dialogue, sometimes naturalistically, but sometimes I like it just, it's a rhythm thing. There's a sequence when Taya comes in where she and Tessman and Hedda all sort of speak over each other, and it's not really naturalistic, but I like that it's sort of, it has the bubbly, it has a visceral equivalent in your ears of what they're all feeling, which is sort of, they're in a very sort of high state. And so if you put all their voices together, it's sort of...
Mrs. Mandistress, what fun. Yes, it's been a long time.
I'm Mrs. Doctor.
Yes.
And this is my husband,
Congratulations.
Mr. Doctor. Or is that Doctor?
Hello. How are you?
Did you send flowers?
I'm well. No, I didn't get a chance.
Good for you.
I didn't realise
Why
you were
would you?
away till
When did you get into
yesterday.
town?
Yesterday. So
I'm
when
not
I
on flowers,
called
it's
round
always a
and said you
convenience.
were away, I was desperate.
Shortcut. Nothing beats an early morning visit. Desperate?
Mrs. Mandistress! Yes, it's been a long time.
I'm Mrs. Doctor. And this is my husband, Mr. Doctor.
Hello.
Or is that Doctor?
How are you?
I'm well.
Did you send flowers?
I didn't get a chance.
Good for you.
Why
When
did
did
you
you
were
get
away
the
till
I'm the one
yesterday?
that flowers. It's always the convenience.
When I told round
A shortcut.
said you were away,
Nothing beats an
I
early
was
morning visit.
desperate.
Desperate?
Most of the great plays are about identity. That's why often they're named after the central character, Hedda Gabler, Hamlet, King Lear, Macbeth, Oedipus Rex, because they are in some way about the identity of the individual in society, which is a vital question that you face, we all face every day, is what do I compromise in order to live better, in order for us all to live better, in order for myself to live better? What do I compromise? What do I collaborate? What do I agree with? What do I shift? What do I offer up?
I think Ibsen is dealing with archetypes who are, you know, are still as much with us today. You know, his treatment of narcissism and alcoholism and depression and anxiety and all of those things, I think, is very, very true.
You know, you need something there. Something to keep... Well, what do you propose then? Let yourself go to what? Purpose, Hedda. Well, life soon becomes a chore.
The judge and I have a prior engagement, so tonight...
No, I understand.
More than welcome to join us, though, Lippo. It's a simple soiree.
No, there'll be time later.
Let's stop there, shall we? And just start the scene. Let's go from the silence, from the stopping of the ring on the glass. All that we do is bound.
Robin's got a great commitment to the truth. And she's like a dog with a bone. I don't think she'd mind me saying that. She just will worry a moment with you until it's utterly right.
Much of the director's work is in making space for, giving permission for people to explore very personally and in the space without stamping on them. And I'm very, very pedantic about language. Extremely pedantic about language and the rhythm of the language, the music of the language.
We are animals, as we are bound to the laws of this planet. We are animals, as we are bound to the laws of this planet. ...
Yep.
I had learned the dialogue within the first 2 days, and Robin said to me, "What are you doing? You don't need to. You've got the freedom of 6 weeks." And that to me was baffling, because on film, of course, you don't have that rehearsal process.
Hedda Tessman, is
That's
it?
it.
Oh, Hedda, how could you throw yourself away?
This, Mr. Lippo, is looking down at the Impezzo Valley.
Can we try and establish a completely different tone between now, when he's gone and he's out, and the beginning? I'm just wondering, Aidan, if it might be worth just trying to be very still and very low and very quiet.
Hedda, how could you throw yourself
This,
away?
Mr. Lippo, is looking down the Impezzo Valley. They are incredible peaks, Mr. Lippo. Darling, is that how you treat a soulmate?
You know my soul. Why didn't you just shoot me?
That's not any way. No, that's not.
It's not anyway.
Yeah, it's not any. Why didn't you just shoot me? It's not any way. Is it any way? Or is it any way to. It's two different words, isn't it? It's not any way people would have. It's not the point. It's not any way to deal with what was it's an emphatic thing because it's two separate words, isn't it?
She allows the actors to find their way and then gradually connect, allow the dust to settle, and then we start picking details out. And you know, when Robin will come in and give us notes, she'll say, "Oh, but it's so picky," and we all say, "No, we love how picky it is. We love the fact that, you know, maybe you shouldn't put the glass down on that line, maybe if you turned on this line as opposed to this word."
But I will be the dean of a department devoted entirely to this new discipline. If I become waylaid in...
Stop. Thank you. Just working out some moves here. And pulled you across the islet. So where were you?
If I become waylaid in historical nitpicking, academic nest feathering at this point in my work, then I would be a fool, quite simply.
Stop. So there isn't the room there. Because I remember jumping up quite quickly with Annie. Then we can do a big tour with the... Or we can
cut me off there. Historical nitpicking, academic nest feathering at this point.
Sorry. I used to guide just across before you said sorry. Be a fool, quite simply. I think it was on a fool, quite simply, and we passed by you.
Then I would be a fool, quite simply. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry, please. You have to pursue your calling.
It's fantastic when you have a writer, particularly a writer like Andrew, who is such a lover of actors. You know, he's fantastic to have in the rehearsal room. It's constantly evolving, the work. That you really, having a new adaptation reinforces the fact that you are going to re-examine every word, every moment, every scene, and that nothing is set in stone.
You said probably to stop reality crashing, which is good, much better than avoid.
This is just to stop on the line, step down from the train or step down from the Cate.
A writing team is born.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. You know, I love that part of the process. And I think that's the only time as a writer, apart from being married to an actor, which has obviously been hugely influential in my writing, it's the only time a writer gets a chance to be with the people that are doing the bloody thing and that actually have to wear the egg every night.
You wouldn't judge.
Judge what? It was fantastic to me.
There was a power in you between us that allowed... Yes, I don't know how else to explain it. The connection between us, my soul and yours.
As a composer, you try and find a hook to kind of hang the music on, and to try and find a kind of a colour or a palette for the music. And my starting point was Andrew has a quote from Plato at the front of the play: "Only the dead have seen the end of war." And there's this unseen character in the play, which is Hedda's dad, the general, and you can see the whole play is very much set in Hedda's battlefield. So musically, in the scene changes, there's a lot of very kind of martial music and a lot of trumpet and drums, and it's actually quite dramatic and almost kind of apocalyptic. It's kind of like this is what's raging in Hedda's head. The other important element in the music is that she has to play the piano in the final scene of the play. In Robin's production, we actually see her play, and we also see her struggling with this piece in the course of the play. For various reasons, it's not a practical piano, so it's gutted, so it doesn't make any sound. But Cate absolutely has to look like she's playing it, so we, recorded the music and we play it through a speaker that's concealed in the piano, and the trick is to make it look real. Separately, eventually it'll kind of click on the way.
probably would have to slow it down
Brilliant idea, Rob. Loosen us up.
Weird.
Judge Bragg, yes. It's been a long time. A lifetime. You're moving back to town, I hear.
I was called one day and I wasn't used. I went in anyway and I'm just watching and I thought, oh my God, everyone's, off the book. And I didn't think I knew it at all. I mean, I thought a lot of it had gone out of my head. And I thought I probably needed to be off the book pretty soon in order to be able to rediscover or discover anew things about the character.
I have means at my disposal. As the man says, the best defence is attack.
And you will?
Defend my position, yes.
It's the only cock in the yard.
Like?
Well, I can do what I want.
I try not to think about things too much. Often thought gets in the way of a particular truth with a character. I generally find the doing of something, the exploration of something through the physical doing of it can help you to feel what that truth is at that particular moment, which is why the more I'm up on my feet with other actors and exploring things, that's when I'm hopefully finding whatever that truth is.
A bit of adversity, isn't it,
Something
my
important to you.
You don't know that.
But it might be, yes.
I mean, David Mamet said, I think, there's no such thing as character. And I actually agree with him. Yes, I remember being at drama school and being told to write big lists of my character's qualities. Well, I couldn't write you a list of my qualities. I'm different in each moment, depending on what's going on. So I think that's a real furphy. Developing a character, I think, is a real furphy. I think you simply play each moment as honestly as you can. And the audience then creates character in their mind.
Jürgen, I must see him. I must see him.
Nobody will be alone. Nobody will be alone. Elfstein.
I said to Andrew before we started, I said, I don't have a process. I don't know what I'm going to do this time. I've only revisited something once before. And he said, yes, you do. You have a process and it's working. You don't. And I said, can you tell me what it is? And he said, no, you don't need to know, but you have it. And I think that there's I suppose that's why actors can be quite superstitious, is that you feel that you need to keep something hidden from yourself, because there is a magical quality to, an ephemeral quality to what it is that we do. And if it's locked down and defined, you can kill it. But it's so elusive that you feel like it can dissipate and you somehow frittered it away.
Well, firstly, he's already dead.
I quite often watch, when I'm watching a production, I'll watch the person who's listening rather than the person who's talking. I find the listening person absolutely riveting. And I think that's the key to a really good actor. If they're investing in the mental process of listening and understanding and processing what's being said, they're completely riveting to watch.
We could triangulate over tea.
We should have a wee break now. A wee tea break.
Tea break. Oh, we can eat these, can't we?
The back wall is shorter. We've lost a piece of wall here between the step and the door. So that makes, the entrance on shorter. I actually was given an email that Andrew had written to Robin about what he saw the play as or how he saw the play, and some images that had popped into his head that are not actually in the text. And some of it, like I remember him talking about it being like a sweaty dance or something, and I remember like taking a leap off that, and we started talking about the social situation for women at the time and working out how to represent that in what is actually quite a specific world. I just started looking at what I wanted to represent, and it was basically creating like a beautiful cage.
Herr Elfred's asleep in my bed.
Hedda? Hedda?
No one came to fetch her.
I suppose not.
I'm cold.
We wanted to create something that could simultaneously feel very fragile, very sparse, very open, therefore an awful lot of windows, and could be exploded open by lighting through those windows. So you can reduce the amount of apparent wall space enormously by kind of obliterating it, by exploding it. So you end up with a very fragile, febrile structure, not unlike the idea of the bird in the cage. That space, however, if you light it differently, can begin to feel very, very claustrophobic, very cloying, and quite intense. In other words, the complete opposite. And that in simple terms, they're the two poles of that journey. You go from the space being physically opened out by dint of all the curtains being open, huge amounts of light fall through into the space. By the time you reach the end of Act 3, you never see beyond those walls again. The travel of the atmosphere in this one standing space, it's a standing set throughout, is quite considerable over the course of the entire play.
It turned out that Fiona Crombie, who designed the set, was in complete awe of this great artist, Christian Fredrickson, who had been a sort of awesome figure in her understanding of Australian theatre. His costumes have a great impact. So he came in to design for Hedda. He was very excited about this. It's a play he loves. He felt very strongly about the character. He understood her completely. We both agreed that she'd shopped in Paris, so that there would be nothing modest about her clothes at all. In fact, they were clothes befitting her status as the aristocratic daughter of General Gabler. He was there in his unobtrusive fashion, loving the process, and then tragically dying before we got to New York. We devoted some rehearsal time to Christian, and it was very sad that he wasn't there to celebrate in the triumph that his costumes absolutely were.
There's like a walkway where you come in and then there's more seats back. So it's like a block, a walkway, a block, and then aisles, and then more on either side. So it's actually quite wide. But I don't know, I've never
It's 850 seats. It's 850, which is the same as this, so it's probably not much wider.
So maybe it wouldn't be any deeper then, would it?
No.
The back
It's just much steeper.
is 18 metres.
Okay. Anyway, I think we should start. No, because we're going to be standing on the stage of BAM saying, well, this isn't anything like the Sydney Theatre.
Why did we
have
do
that
that
rehearsal? It's a waste of time.
Hello? Hello? How are you?
I can't.
Unpacking all night, miss. And her so heavens forfend.
When you visit her later today, ask her to dinner if you want.
The thing that would please her most...
She's not my aunt.
A whole week here with money in his pocket.
Who's she? Taya Rising, married to the magistrate Elvsted.
Perhaps it's a history of taverns and bordellos.
Auntie, really, we mustn't be...
When will you publish?
Soon. I'm in the thick of the research. I'm in the thick of the research.
And you have a sense of the upstairs space, either of you? You know, you're kind of aware of that up there?
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried about forgetting about it at the table. I felt like there might be a lot of that for them. But when you're moving around, you have a real sense of it.
I hope it's of some use.
Oh,
really,
yeah,
really useful.
Massive
Really.
use.
It was good, wasn't it?
Oh, it's good to know that you don't have to.
A regular Metro card.
God.
$20.
Really much rather do this on my own.
We are an institution that is looking for innovative, progressive art productions to bring to New York City and to put before our theater-going public. We also are the major presenter of international theatrical work in the city of New York.
That house, BAM, the organisation, has a reputation for inviting the great productions of the world to its stages.
Australia produced this play. These are all Australian artists on the stage, and that's a uniqueness in the theater business of the cultural life of New York City.
His audiences in New York are theatre literate people. And they know what to expect of BAM, and they expect a lot, and they're very vocal in their responses.
Mrs. Tessman!
Any woman can get mad, it doesn't matter. Have a drink. Don't be so pompous. You never were pompous.
We have to be moving on.
I think so. I didn't. I never did.
Voltaire. Judge Brack is watching you.
What did you think?
No, I didn't. What are you doing? He's watching you.
What did you think?
What are you? No, please don't. No, I didn't know anything.
Yes, okay. Now that was controlled. How did it feel?
The world has never said no to you.
Here we go.
You've never had to fight for anything.
What would you know?
Sorry. You've never had to fight for anything.
A bit of adversity, is it? That's my hobby.
I always fuck this bit up. What is it?
The world has never said no. Headers simultaneous comes in.
On the side, Bill.
Leave it outside.
Got it?
I just got off the plane, so I had a situation of jet lag and exhaustion. But to arrive and see 24 or however many, 30 New York stage hands there ready to come in, it was pretty daunting. Thinking that mark on A is that point there.
Yeah.
And that's our setting.
We're going to a much bigger venue with 20 metres of space overhead, so the set as it was just would look ridiculous. So Fiona had to redesign it to give it some serious impact. So it was much higher and much more imposing, and it actually filled the space, the proscenium opening.
Maybe what we can do is spread these out a little bit. You can go on top of that pack just so we can see what we're after. Go right across, guys, onto the next pack. Right. And just lie straight flat until I get this rigging sorted out.
Sorry about that. I didn't know if the base was going to...
Yeah, anyone got a...
wrench?
I need a wrench. Spanner. Shifter.
Adjustable spanner.
It's a shifter.
Mike's my carpenter. We tried to use as much of the original header as possible. And so we went through the new plans that Fiona prepared for us. So we knew we were going to use the joinery. It was a very important part to keep because of the length of time it took to build the joinery, windows and doors. But it was mainly the roof that was one of the major areas that we had to rebuild.
The ceiling was much, much higher, that pitched roof. That was much bigger. They changed the angle of it slightly so it was more imposing. The floor area, the decking and all the rostrums, that was much bigger and it was round. Because the line of the proscenium at BAM is so far away from the front row of seats, there was this enormous chasm that they had to fill. So considerable bit of building, really. And quite tricky because there was angles, compound angles on angles, and the boys did a terrific job.
It's a first snow. It's a first snow. It's on your lashes.
Oh, this is great. Okay, let's see the damn snow. It's a two-pixel camera.
So if we spot one another when I say dinner, no, I would rather. So I could have gone that way and then that way. So are you just making a shadow move or are you actually making a proper move? No, I would rather. No, we'll talk at dinner, stupid. And then at 10 o'clock, I go with my music. And I'll look at the audience and get my mouth.
Come back and do a trial an Olympic.
I said I thought it was the most beautiful house in town. It just popped out. Sadly, it turns out he actually thought that all his life. Well, every time we passed it, it became this one thing we had in common. Soon enough, we were standing at the gates for what felt like ages at a time. Just talk, I thought. But for Tessman, they were plans. It was the only place I could possibly live. Before I knew it, it was like I was some princess locked in his fairy tale. Then he was proposing and offering me the house, the honeymoon, the world. Ready-made.
Not everyone will really understand Hedda's idealism. Yes, and it's tempered by an enormous destructive nature, but she is an idealist who is also a coward. I had one response from a friend who'd said that he was terrified by her because she was one of these women who was different, a different woman with every man she was with, and so therefore not tameable. You could never pin her down. She's quite elusive. She's incredibly passionate, but then also incredibly cold. And I suppose the tricky thing for me was to let all those wild ambiguities that Andrew brought out in his adaptation, to allow all those ambiguities to sit within Hedda.
I suppose the manservant's out of the question.
Win back my reputation.
I just wanted to say we're starting, so at the start of something it's always good to say hello and here we go. But also just to say how wonderful it is to be in this beautiful theatre, and I'm just trying to test it acoustically as I speak. But it feels as if acoustically it's going to be great, but of course we won't know that till we get an audience in here. But it is a very beautiful theatre, and it feels as if the set was actually designed for this space. It's So it's a very welcoming place to be. So thank you all in advance for what I'm sure will be a fabulously smooth tech. Thanks, Mary.
Before we start, Alison, can you send some of Robin's mic through the piano speaker, please? Because the cast can't really hear her behind the wall either.
Yes, well, I'm sure, but not on the piano.
Thanks, ladies. We'll reset and do that again. Read through the whole thing, Robin. Okay, stand by in the house. 1 second.
In the theatre, during the technical rehearsal, I'll be calling all the cues, and although I get information from the designers and from the director, I'm then the relay of that information. And although the cast have the responsibility of the face that the audience see, I'm sort of the person who goes, well, that's in the right place, 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 and therefore the framework is there. And any kind of playing around in the framework is completely creative. The director, who has got enough to worry about with doing the play, doesn't then have to worry about all the nuts and bolts around it as well.
Thank you, Mary. We'll go back to the same cue.
Go back to the same place. Stand by, Kate.
Is this going to be closed? So I have to open it?
Yep.
I open it?
Yeah, that's all correct.
I can't stand it.
My hands just came apart. Sorry. We can keep going, but it's...
No, you need to go and take your pants off.
Yes, so I don't... What do you
It's
want
the
me to do?
downstage is the answer.
Unless I come further into the space and then sneak back.
How does that feel?
That's all right, I can do that.
Oh, okay. You go up to Annie and just say, is that all? And she'll say yes, and then you can just all go off. Okay. Thank you very much.
Header, boom.
Yeah.
It's going header, boom.
Okay.
It should be header, boom. I thought this had to be, there was a lighting change or a music thing to cue me standing.
Thank you, Kate.
Oh, yes. You'd love that, wouldn't you, Judge Brack? To be the only cock in my run.
Just go into position.
Maybe I just want to focus and... Like if I go from here to bang,
then there's no way to
here, means I'll probably go boom.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. So dinner break, thanks. Food will be here at 5 p.m. And the dress rehearsal starts at 7. So between 6 and 7 we can have a little faff around, do things. Piano on stage at 6.
We're unique. We're not... You know, Americans have never heard an Australian adaptation of a European classic spoken in voices that are Australian, whatever that means. And it means a lot of different things, of course. There's no just one Australian voice.
It's important to exchange ideas and shows and aesthetics and ideologies. And so therefore, yes, it's important for America to receive this as important as it is for Australia to send it.
And I think it's important for it to feed back so that all of, you know, the actors and the stage managers and the crew and the designers all go back to Australia having experienced that theatre, that level of sophistication in the audience. And it's just reinvigorates Australia, and Australia reinvigorates, you know, it's a positive cycle.
We all got the biggest shock when the lights went down. Oh my God, the lights went down and they screamed. They screamed, and my heart started. I was down in the dressing room, just here on the tannoy. They're scary. They're really scary. Kids' audience.
Hi, my name's Julie Hamilton.
I'm Annie Byron, I play Beata.
My name's Aidan Young, I play Eilert.
My name's Cate Blanchett, I played Hedda.
My name's Hugo Weaving.
My name's Justine Clark.
My name's Anthony Wang.
My question is for Mr. Weaving. We read this play in class, in my theatre class. I was just so intrigued by Judge Brack, and it was really my favorite character. And I want to know that how I noticed there's a rhythm to your Judge Brack. With
Sometimes.
The steps, sometimes.
The revisiting of the play has, I suppose, augmented certain aspects of the things I was doing in Sydney. So I guess the rhythmical taps, and it's certainly not a conscious thing, but it's just something that's developed over a period of time.
How hard is the change from the movie screen to being in front of an audience in a play? And if it is, why?
With theatre, you're right there. You're part of the actual production, whether you like it or not. I mean, as we were performing today, there were all sorts of noises you could hear, and we had to take you from here and put you over there and then take you back here and, focus on this and, So you do become another character in the play, so. And you were all very good, by the way.
Actually, actors have more control in a play. I mean, there are two things. They get to do the arc of the play, the story of the play from start to finish, whereas in film, you do what, how many minutes a day? 1.5, 2, 3, 4 a day. Whereas the actors get the chance to perform the whole for one audience, and that's a very different experience. But also they have, film can be controlled by editors, sound editors, all sorts of editors, whereas on stage, the actor's entire body is on view at all times.
The character Testman, throughout the play, he says A, as in E-H. And I was wondering, why did you decide to take that out? Because it showed how he was weak and he needed support throughout the play from Hedda and the rest of the cast.
I felt he needed strengthening, and without changing his character, finding out what it was in him, because technically speaking, he's the only person in the play who gets what he wants. He gets a great book at the end of the play, which he's going to have his name on, as well as Eilert Loveball's, and he gets himself an obedient wife in Taya. And everybody else, including Judge Brack, doesn't get what they want.
I was wondering if you use the motivation of pure evil, or as Tessman once put it, the devil in you.
It doesn't matter who you're playing. If you enter in with a judgment like that, then you're going to get a monochromatic performance. And I hope, or certainly what I endeavoured to do, was to create somebody, yes, who's incredibly infuriating and destructive, but she's an idealist. And when you believe in something, then you will have people who dislike what you say.
I feel that often people will come and see an Ibsen with crossed arms. And it's been interesting talking to university students here in the States, the deep, deep conservatism that they're talking about, the canon, and how radical it is, what we've done with the text. And you think, it's not literature, it's theatre. It's actually a living, breathing thing that doesn't have a static notion of the truth. There is no static Hedda, static Tesman. It's what this ensemble of actors with the writer and the director and the lighting designer and the costume designer, etc., what they put on in this moment. It's a temporal thing, and hopefully it will live on in your memories. But the sense of it being done correctly or incorrectly.
Justine will kind of lean into Cate, and then Cate gets up after that.
So Kate's mostly facing this way? Over there?
Some out that way and some back towards...
But she's seated or she's standing?
She's seated.
She is seated, yeah.
Oh, she's seated. So she's seated.
I suppose what I run away from all the time is this weight of expectation that something has to be a certain thing. And I thought, oh, it's being built up. It's being built up as being this thing, and it's bound to disappoint. Maybe it's just slipped through my fingers and it's not going to be there this time. But then, you look into Hugo's eyes, you play with Anthony, you play with Justine, Aidan, everyone, and suddenly it's not about me, it's not about my fear, it's actually about connecting to simple, basic things.
Paid for what? What did you...
Members of the Hedegard Company, this is your half-hour call and the house is now open. Thank you, the house is open. Your half-hour call. Members of the Hedegard Company, this is your 5-minute call. 5 minutes till part 1 begins. Thank you.
Tickets, please. Next.
Richard Eyre said something wonderful about described an audience. He said, we enter the theatre as individuals and we leave as an audience. And I think that's a very powerful way of describing the experience. You bring to it whatever you're feeling on the day, and it brings whatever it's doing on the day and impacts on you. So you're feeding each other. An extraordinary contract between the living, breathing mass that is the audience and the living, breathing component that is the acting group.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this evening's performance of Hedda Gabler. Please ensure your mobile phones, pages and alarms are switched off, as even on silent, these devices can interfere with the theatre's electronic systems.
All the way to the right. What theatre asks of you is that you engage. It's a form that does not exist without an audience. You can rehearse a play, and until it goes on in front of an audience, it's nothing. You're next to the person and you're a group together with the actors reinventing these stories. And that primitive level, that's really vital to our understanding of how communities work and how to work socially and who we are.
Members of the Hedegard Company, this is your beginner's call. Part 1 beginners. Thank you. Ms. Blanchett, Ms. Hamilton, Ms. Byron and Mr. Way, your beginner's call. Thank you.
See ya.
Okay, we've got clearance, folks. Stand by the cast, thanks, George. Stand by, please, electrics cues 1 through 3, follow-ons through 5. Stand by, Cate. Stand by, sound, cue 1. Thank you. House lights and electrics cue 1, go. Sound cue 1 and Cate, go. Ms. Blanchett, this is your call. Ms. Blanchett, your call. Thank you.
Auntie Rena is sick.
Isn't she always?
She's particularly bad today, poor thing.
So be it.
She did want me to say, though, how lovely you look with a bit of weight on.
Did she?
You're in the same room as the actors. You are mixing with the humanity that are making the art. And I think that that does something to people. One of the great things theatre can do when it's fantastic is there's a moment, there's like an aha moment when the audience goes, we're the same. It's sort of like falling in love.
I mean, I'll need to publish again pretty soon.
Goodbye, Judge. Lovely to see you.
Well, I'll see you out. You have to forgive me, I'm just a bit on the back foot.
You'll be fine, Jürgen.
I know. I have every confidence. What will you do with your days?
Shoot.
Or a trick? What will you shoot?
Bottles, birds, the neighborhood cats.
You're very brave.
I'm my father's daughter.
What I love, above all other art forms, is that theatre is a human, compassionate, generous art form. And I love the ephemeral nature of theatre, that it actually lives on in people's memories. Plays are meant to be performed. Hedda really made little sense to me on the page. It was in the saying of it, in the inhabiting of it, having people witness it, that suddenly it makes sense.
Anyway, it's an ill wind, blows no good. We're all three of us here together.
What did you think?
Careful, Taya, Judge Brack is
What
watching
did you think?
What are you doing? He's watching you.
What did you think?
Taya, please. I don't know, please. No, please. Taya, please, no.
This...
There's something about the accident of nature you witness to in theatre, and that can even be within the perfect telling of the text. That when an actor says something and another actor responds to it, it's being done for the first time, because their tone is different. Their song for that night is different.
We ended up at Miss Diana's.
Miss Diana is a redhead
Flaming.
and a singer.
You know, everyone's a singer after 4 in the morning, Hedda may speak.
There is an exchange of energy between audience and actor, and when it's not there, you feel it on stage. There's something about the live experience. Even if you are, as an audience member, kind of peering into a room, there's still a contract there, because the actors obviously are performing for you.
But I can still be useful to you.
Just go, live your life, forget me!
How? No, I can't.
Go home!
Never! Where you are, that's where I want to be. You can't just drive me away.
I love the theatre, and I need the theatre, and so I want to be in the theatre. I like being a part of it. I think it's extraordinary that you can remember productions from years and years and years ago. You can remember moments as if they were, well, they are a part of your life, and an important part of your life.
But really, this is all speculation. I'm the only one who knows, and I've no reason to tell the police. Do I, Hedda?
What are you saying?
If they trace the gun, you can say it was stolen, and I'll keep them up.
You were involved this morning at the outset.
I live by a hill.
I can do what I want.
Oh, of course, of course. But the law can be sticky.
So I'm not free to... No. I can't stand that. No. Never. I'd rather die. No. Do we think, Tesman? Is it possible?
There's a lot of work to be done.
Imagine. But it is going to be. Is it good, Taya dearest? Sitting by my husband, going over all of Eyelet's work after having sat by him whilst he did it? Does it feel different?
Electrics queue 84. Go. Sound queue 16. Go.
Hedda, dear! Don't play dances tonight. Think of dear Rena and poor Eyelet.
And of your Aunt Eula, and of everybody. I'll be quiet from now on.
Stand by sound queue 17.1, electrics queues 85 through 88. Stand by the gun, stand by George.
My Aunt Eula, Taya.
No, really?
She's lovely.
I'm sure she is.
I insist. For Hedda's sake.
I can hear you making plans without me, Tesman. But what will I do in the evenings?
I'm sure the judge will call by and keep you entertained. Happily. Oh.
Oh, yes, you'd love that, wouldn't you, Judge Brack? To be the only cock in my run!
Oh, Lord!
Dear boy!
But people don't...
These people just...
We're getting straight in.
The in and the out's going to be quite good.
He's my husband. Thank God. He's a gorgeous man.
Where's Hugo go, do you know? He had his secret. He's gone there?
Hi.
I think I'll get out of the entire side.
Thank you so much. Oh, it's so good of you to come.
Listen, we've had her on our calendar. This is it.
The Sydney Theatre Company is one of the premier producing companies within Australia. I have had the great pleasure of working with Rob Brooklyn, their general
Great night. I had no expectations. I didn't know what would happen, but we're happy.
That's gorgeous.
Danny. It's you. Oh, guys. So sweet.
So my friend. It's a kissing cue.
Oh.
How did that happen, Ant?
Ouch. Hugo Weaving beat me up.
You deserved it.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And Annie and Aiden. Hello. And Bernie. Hello. And Eric.
Bravo! Oh my God!
The hairy fellas. Hugo's the beard of the moment.
So it's just in class.
You want sort of holidays?
Yeah, we're on our Easter break.
Don't do that.
Thank you very much. I will. Thank you.
Kate, we came from San Francisco.
Oh,
we
did you?
absolutely love you. Thank you so much.
Airbrushing. A little bit of
Oh,
airbrushing.
please, you look fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you.